So hello everybody, this video is going to be talking about how your personality manifests itself in the role that you will play in any video game, right? Some people like to play Skyrim as that archer, the stealth guy that sneaks up on top of people and assassinates them. Some people like to be the guy that charges head in first shouting Leroy Jenkins. And that is no different in the game of Dota 2. And today we're going to be using Dota 2 as a game to reference for exactly how that fits into your personality in gaming.
Bananaslamjamma.
So first and foremost, it's important you guys understand how the different roles in Dota 2 work. Dota 2 is a game that is all about accruing gold and experience, what we like to call resources and farm, as soon as possible, and then using these resources to kill the opponent's base, right? And so oftentimes you have to go through heroes to get that done, but it's kind of like a two-pronged process. So the reason why the roles have been delegated as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is because there's only so many resources on the map. And so the whole 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of talks about a priority list for which heroes get the most resources dedicated to them. Some heroes operate very well with very little resources, while others require very many resources to do their job, and they'll do that job better than these other heroes who have equal amounts of resources. So 5 is the lowest on the priority list of resources, while 1 is the highest. So let's go and get into each role and how that may fit into your personality. It's important to note that every role has kind of subclasses to it. There's different ways that each role can be played. And if you don't have all the time in the world to play Dota, you'll likely have a limited amount of heroes that you'll learn to be able to play. And it'll be important to know that it's oftentimes heroes that fall into these same categories that will really fit your liking. And even at the highest level, there's professional players who just have such specialized playstyles that even though they could be capable of playing all types of heroes, they are just masterful at a specific subclass of their own position. So let's go ahead and lead off with the 5 positions. You guys are the enablers. You guys just lend a hand to all the people around you. You want to make other people better. You want to bring them up and allow them to do what they do better than they could ever do without you. And there's really 2 main subclasses of the enablers. First and foremost is the healers, the priests, and the counter-initiators, the guys that are going to keep their teammates alive by staying behind them and either preventing them from dying or stunning the entire enemy team. These heroes are Dazzle and Oracle, the type that keep an individual hero alive, or the Warlocks and the Wyverns, who can heal their teammates, but they're most notable for their area stuns that prevent their teammates from dying if the opponent ever tries to kill them with multiple heroes. Next up is the gank tankers / meat shields, if you're not aware of the word gank. Your job is that you are naturally tanky, but you don't really have the best skills to keep your teammates alive if the opponent were to go on them. These heroes are Undying, Ogre Magi, Enchantress. Your job is to provide vision for your team, information, draw attention to yourself, and say, "Take me!" instead of your teammates. If that's the kind of sacrificial person you are, that is the perfect role for you. It also feels good to play these heroes sometimes because you know the opponent wasted their time killing you while the rest of your team killed them. Now, there are hybrids of every role in Dota. There are heroes that fit multiple molds, and these heroes are oftentimes a little bit more conceptually difficult, but can still be rewarding because you can kind of learn to identify which role they're supposed to take based on what the team needs. An example of a hybrid for the support role would be Abaddon, because his ultimate allows him to be survivable when he runs in, or he can be a backline saver with a Photic Shield or his miscoil that keeps his teammates alive. Some games, one is going to be better than the other. Next up is the 4-position heroes. I like to call you guys the misfits. Your job is to get just a little bit of farm attention, maybe get 1 or 2 low-cost items, and then just ruin the enemy team's day. It is either by killing them with damage or by killing them by stunning them. That is your job in the game, enabling your team to kill the opponent. So first and foremost is the stealth and the scout class of the 4-position. These heroes are all about gathering vision and having superior knowledge of what the opponent is doing so that you guys can get the jump on them. This is Nyx Assassin, Bounty Hunter, and Mirana, who even makes her entire team invis to do the job. Next up, we got Bruisers and the Chaos Creation Disruptor type heroes, okay? We got Earthshaker, we got Earth Spirit, we got Tusk, we got Marcy. Your job is to go in or wait for the opportune moment to stunlock the entire team and watch your team just rain damage down upon them. And if you like to be the guy that has the fancy wombo combos or the stylistic solo kills, or setting up the kills, these are the heroes for you. Next up is the Archers and the Nukers. Now, there's a subclass of 4-position heroes that are much more about being in the back. Your job is to follow up your teammates. You represent either a ton of lockdown to follow up their lockdown or a ton of damage. Now, these heroes are the ones that if I'm a 1-position player, I absolutely hate you with all of my being, because when I don't see you, I don't know where you are, I have to be afraid of dying from full health all the way down to 0, because you're going to be the one that's a crucial part of that happening. We're talking about the hoodwinks, the little annoying squirrels in the trees. Dark Willow, the elusive little fairy person that I just can't stand getting stunned and slowed and controlled all day. Or we're talking about Lion, a hero that has a ton of damage in his ultimate, but also has up to 7 seconds of lockdown from his own stuns. And then there's obviously hybrids of the world. An example would be Mirana, because she is a stealth information-based hero, but she also has a very long stun that as long as her teammates first stun, she'll be able to follow up with her arrow, and eventually you'll get bursted without even being able to push any of your buttons. Next up is the all-rounders, the 3 positions. I think of you guys as the one for all. What does my team need to end this game? Do we need team fight? Do we need tower pushing? What can I do to clog the holes on the ship so that we do not sink? Now, there's a lot of different subclasses of this role. Your job is to get some farm for the first 15 to 20 minutes because you are higher on the totem pole than the 4s and the 5s, but your job is to turn that farm into early momentum, into taking farm from the opponent. And there's a lot of ways that we can do that. And we're going to talk about that in these subclasses. The first subclass I like to call the Plague Bearers. We're talking about the heroes that nobody wants to be in the same area as they will slowly whittle you down and kill you over time. We're talking about the Vipers, the Necros, the Venomancers, the Death Prophets. If you stand in the same area as these heroes, you will eventually die. If you like ruining other people's days, these are the heroes for you. Some people just like to make the whole world burn, you know? Next up, we got the Zookeepers. You guys are the ones that have all these little minions that are your friends, because I like to think none of you have friends in real life. No, that was uncalled for, sorry. But not my type of hero. We're going to talk about the fact that you like to have your minions do the bidding for you. These heroes don't usually lock down the opponent. They don't usually do a ton of damage. They build auras that make everyone else do damage, and they eventually win fights because of the fact that they have superior vision from their summons, and they also just have unlimited amounts of damage because they have so many sources of damage that the opponent will eventually be whittled down. These heroes are all about carefully calculating where they play on the map, but also exactly what fights they take and what items they go to enable their team to be survivable and do enough damage. These heroes are Visage, Beastmaster, Lycan, Nature's Prophet. If you like to be a thorn in the opponent's side, constantly making them question their own decisions with what fight they're going to take and all that kind of jazz, what tower they have to defend, this is the role for for you. Next up is initiators and frontliners. Now, what's important to note about initiators and frontliners from the 3 position is that most of these heroes are innately tanky. They initiate in a way where, yes, they're going to do some stunning. Maybe they'll lock one guy down or the entire enemy team down, but usually they do it while being tanky. We're talking about Mars, Dragon Knight, Legion Commander, Night Stalker, Axe, Magnus. All of these heroes go the hell in and look to control the opponent. If you're the type that likes to charge in head first and be the one that starts the fight, you don't want to be the one that ends it. You want to be the one that starts it. These are the heroes for you. Next up is the combo breakers, the tanks. These heroes do a similar job to the initiators, but oftentimes they like to present themselves on a silver platter to the opponent and say, I'm so tanky, you can't kill me. For the initiator heroes, they usually like to sneak up on you and stun you without you being ready for it. But these tanks, they offer themselves. They're right in front of you, and you dare go on them. If you don't go on them, they'll often represent a lot of damage, or they will represent an AoE stun. We're talking about Timbersaw, Tidehunter, Dawnbreaker, Underlord. All these heroes do a similar job in a very different way. And lastly, we're talking about the hybrids. Probably one of the most conceptually difficult heroes in Dota, but also one of the funnest to watch, is Enigma. This hero has summons early, which makes him a little bit of a zookeeper. He has the ability to be the counter-initiator combo breaker with the black hole when the enemy all groups up, or he has the option to be the guy that goes in first and gets that solo black hole in order to bring down the enemy 1 position. Heroes like this, you have to be so careful because every game, if you do the wrong role out of all of these based on what your allies and enemy heroes are, you'll probably end up losing. And in the 2 position, we have what I like to call the show-offs. You guys are usually the only one that starts the game in your own lane. You have no one but yourself to blame if you win or lose your lane. It is all about showing up the opponent, styling on the opponent, and letting your play do the talking. And there's a lot of different ways to play this role, but all of them say, I am going to show off, okay? Now, invaders and pressurers. These are the heroes that are a little bit less flashy, but they use that early momentum to push towers and kind of encroach on the area of the opponent. We're talking about Death Prophet, Leshrac, Necrophos, even a hero like Ember Spear with Flame Guard constantly shoving the lanes into the opponent. Next up, we have the heroes that are really well known for being smurfed because they are cheesers and snowballers. These are the heroes that you like to pick later on in the draft. And what I mean by cheese is it's just a term used in Dota that says you can't deal with me. You got cheesed. You got basically picked in a hero that the enemy says we don't have the heroes to deal with you, and if you play it right, you're just going to win. These are the Meepos, the Huskars, the Broodmothers, and yes, Tinkers. If you like one of these heroes, you'll most likely like the others, because at the end of the day, you like to make the opponent feel hopeless, because you knew exactly when these heroes were good to pick. They're very niche, and then the opponent just cried as they lost to you without feeling like they could do anything. Next up is the damage dealers. These heroes usually get 15 to 20 minutes of farm, and it's their job to then go kill people. If I have any of these heroes on my team, I know most of the time in any other role that I don't have to do that much damage, because these heroes are pretty much all about the damage. Very little lockdown, very little tower taking. They usually just do the hero killing. We're talking about Lina, Zeus, Templar Assassin, Arc Warden, Outworld Devourer. They all do it in their own different ways, but if you like to be the guy that brings it home in the damage front, these are the heroes for you. Next up is the Hunters. These heroes are going to use that early solo experience, early time to themselves to get some levels, maybe 1 or 2 small items, and then they're going to go kill some people. These heroes are usually very mobile, jumping all over the place. They can be in multiple places at once, and you should constantly be living in fear of their ability to kill you. Most of them operate on very low cooldowns. They're constantly up, ready to go. These heroes are Void Spirit, Storm Spirit, Puck, Batrider, Tiny, Pangolier. These are the type of heroes that are truly flashy. And if you're a truly spirited mid lane show off, these are most likely the heroes you will like to play. And if we're talking about a hybrid of all of these, it's the hero you'll always see in competitive Dota, and that's Tiny. This hero can be a snowballing hunter, and he can also be a late game damage dealer. So the hero can basically do it all. And as long as the hero has enough items, he will be able to have significant impact in any facet of the game. Now, last up is the center of attention prima donna one position heroes. Doesn't matter how you paint it. If you want to be the guy that eventually is the win condition for your team, if you want to be the person that everyone relies on and looks to later on in the game, and you want all the glory, but also all the fault if you end up losing. Most of the time you end up blaming others, but let's try not to do that. The one position is for you. You are the highest priority on the totem pole. Everything everybody else does is for you. At least that's what you think. Now, there's a lot of ways to do this. There's a lot of ways to reliably carry the game, as the role so states as your title, the carry. First up is the killers. These heroes like to get 1 or 2 small items and then go murder some people. We're talking about Ricky, Ursa, Weaver, Slark, Lifestealer. These heroes aren't the best at getting all the resources for themselves, but they are so good at killing the enemy heroes that want the resources. Next up, we got the AFK farmers. These guys are the ones that want to consume everything. They want all of the resources for themselves. They are the billionaires of the video game world. All for me, none for you. These heroes are the Medusas, the Lunas, the Anti-Mages, the PLs, the Alchemists. You say team, slaves, buy me time and I will have all the items and eventually I will carry you. Next up is the initiators and the stunners. Now, the difference between these initiators and stunners compared to the 3 position is that these heroes innately have damage dealing bonuses, which makes them more of a carry. With more items, they will do much more damage. These heroes are Chaos Knight, Sven, and Wraith King. Chaos Knight and Wraith King have crits, while Sven has cleave damage to kill the entire team in an AoE. Next up, we got ourselves the raid bosses. If you just want to be the guy that gets items and eventually never dies and says, come at me, bro, I dare you. Oftentimes these heroes lack the ability to stun the opponent, but they make it incredibly hard for the opponent to ever deal with them. These heroes are the Medusas, the Terrorblades, the Morphlings, the Spectres, the Huskars, the Bristlebacks. These heroes, once they hit that critical mass, they are either unkillable and they win the game, or they are not, and they flail and flop miserably. All or nothing for these heroes, and if that's your playstyle, that will absolutely fit for you. And last up is those backline archers and nukers. Now, this is similar to the 4 position in terms of title, but it operates very differently. Most of the 4 position heroes, the supports, operate purely off of their abilities doing damage in bursts, right? They will kill you at a certain health threshold, but they don't do as much damage later on in the game like these heroes. These heroes often do damage by continuously attacking you, and they will have less burst, but more sustained damage. They will eventually kill you as long as they are alive. These heroes are all about positioning, exactly where you put yourself on the battlefield, and killing the opponent when they go on your teammates. Just sheer damage output that you exude. We're talking about Clinks, we're talking about Drow, and we're talking about Sniper. These are some of my favorite heroes to play because they are incredibly high risk, high reward heroes, because either you're the one getting initiated onto and you die, or you're the one sneakily in the back making sure you're careful about your positioning, building the right items to stay alive, and then just murdering everybody. And that's it. I hope one of these roles, one of these subclasses really spoke to you, because for me, after playing tons of hours of Dota, I realized that yes, there's a lot of value to playing different roles, and some of them, multiple ones, may sound appealing to you, but eventually one of them will speak to you. Every game you play, Dota being a perfect archetypal example, will reflect your personality in the way that you like to play it. So be open to trying these different classes, these different categories of heroes, and just see exactly what works for you. No one size fits all here, people. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.